Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of Keeping It Real with Dr. Linda Chin. I'm the co-host of Dr. Chin, and this is Dr. Linda Chin. Today, her topic is you only, always, never. And when I saw that, I was like, what does that mean? So I couldn't even figure out what that meant. So welcome, Dr. Chin. How are you today?
Thank you. Welcome you. And I'm doing okay. I cannot complain. How about you, sis?
It's a beautiful day here in Georgia, so I won't complain either because it is lovely outside.
Yeah.
How
So
was your Easter?
it was good. It was good. We went to go see family for baby dedication and baptism. It was wonderful. Thanks.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice. I spent the quiet Easter at home until my baby came over, and then the quiet went out the window. It
It's good sometimes to be disrupted.
is. It is. So, what does that mean? You only, always, never. I couldn't figure that one out.
I'm surprised because I thought for sure people they're gonna know. It's really about communication. It's
Mm.
about saying when we're having conversations with people or we're having a conflict. Oftentimes in our frustration, in our exasperation, we use terms like, "Well, you only did it, da, da, da," or "You always," or "You never." Right, and so those are words in conversation that rarely get us the results that we're looking for when we're having a conversation and when we want someone's attention, when we need someone's attention, we really don't get what we're looking for when we use those words. Only, always, never. They
Mm.
put people on the defensive.
I thought when they were all together, I'm like, what does that mean? That is true. And I thought about something because I was talking to my daughter recently, and she used one of them. She said, "You always," and I just literally got finished talking to her, and she's like, "Yeah, I told him you always." So yeah, I understand that.
So how did you feel when she said it?
I didn't even think about it because I'm sure I used the words too. So I never
Yeah,
even
I
thought
do.
about it because they're so common to your everyday conversation most of the time. So you don't think about it, you just use them.
Mhm. So, and we do. And if it's a conversation where there's not conflict, we do tend to ignore them, right? So, but when
Hmm.
it's a conversation or a heated discussion or what I call intense fellowship, we use words like always, never, and only. And when we do that, in essence, we're telling somebody that we know better, we know better than you because you always do this and you never do thus and such. And really, the implication is that they need to change. See, because you always do this, so
Mm.
you need to stop. You never do this, so you need to start, right? You only do this, so you need to reconsider or reroute what you're doing. And so it sets a rigid and a discouraging tone to other people. And it really even
Mhm.
discourages people from a healthy debate. It could start off as a healthy debate, but when we use those terms, we're kind of pushing people saying, like, I know better than you. So we put them on the defensive, and even doing that oftentimes discredits your own argument. So when I
Mm.
say things like that, it really kind of discredits what my argument or my point of view. Because now I've taken it to we use in what we call hyperboles. Right now I've taken it to a whole nother level. Like I know everything and you're the one who needs to change.
I feel kind of bad now that you say that because I was in a conversation yesterday with one. It was a group of us, and we were talk. We have a potluck this evening. We have a women's potluck this evening, and so one of the other women asked one of the other women like, "What are you bringing?" And she said what she was going to bring, and I was like, "Are you gonna make enough? Because y'all always make just a little bit." And then she was like, "Oh my god, I just can't win." And I'm thinking, but you do always just make a little bit. Like we could have 25 people coming, and it's never enough to feed but two or three people. And so, but now that I think about that and her response to that, I feel bad.
Did she respond favorably or did she acknowledge it?
She just said she just can't win. And I'm like, but you never make enough food.
Mhm.
So so I think a lot of times we're so used to saying that, but okay, so what happens if that always, always, only, always, never is true?
We're gonna get there.
Okay.
We're going to talk about that because sometimes it is. But using those kind of words really diminish the impact of our message
Mm-hmm.
because there's another way that we can say it. Well, it was so good that and it wasn't enough. So next time you really should probably bring a little more because it was so good. And I'm sure some more people, other people may have wanted to get some, right? So there's a way
Mm-hmm.
to change it so that you're getting the point across because again, we don't want to diminish the impact of our message. We
Okay.
want the message to come across so that we're at the end. And this is not about being manipulative. This is about getting what we need out of the person, getting what's going to help the situation, right? And we don't want to hinder the other
Mm-hmm.
person's willingness to hear us. Because now, if you're saying to me, I always, I never, or I only, I kind of shut down. Like, I really don't want to hear anymore because now you're accusing me of something. Your tone
Mm-hmm.
now becomes accusatory. You're making accusations against me. You understand
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying? So
Mm-hmm.
that diminishes
Yeah.
the other person's willingness to hear, right? And so one of the things that we want to do is we don't want to get in the debate when people use words like always and never. Well, no, that's
Mm-hmm.
not true because what happens is you always take it the wrong way. See, so now no one's really listening.
Mm-hmm.
We're in
Mm-hmm.
this thing where we're accusing each other back and forth. It becomes an argument and a fight, and ultimately nobody wins. So we can respond reasonably because these words are provocative, right? They put
Mm-hmm.
you on the defensive, they provoke you, they're inflammatory words, they cause flare-ups when that's really not, unless that was your intention, but that's really not. If we're going to communicate, right, and verbalize and convey our desires, we've got to do it in such a way that causes a person to want us to hear the next thing, not to shut
Mm-hmm.
down from the listening. We don't want to put the receiver on the defensive.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's one thing. So words like that, they really only serve to escalate a conflict. And there we kind of talked about this a little bit in our class last night, self-awareness. That there is a scripture, Proverbs 15:1 and 2, I believe. It says a soft answer turns away wrath. So if someone is saying to you, or someone is saying to me, you always, or you never, or you only, rather than responding the same way, then I need to have a soft answer. I should be able to come up, well, I'm sorry you feel that way, or I don't really mean to always or never or only, right? Sometimes I'll say that back. I don't mean to always, or I don't mean to never, so that
Mm-hmm.
they hear that I heard and that maybe what you said wasn't all the way accurate.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
I do, and I think I cleaned it up pretty well. And not that I was trying to clean it up, but I did say something to the effect of, at Thanksgiving, you guys made some macaroni and cheese, and it was delicious. And people came back for more, and it was gone because the pan was so small. So I think I kind of cleaned it up because it really was. People were like, "Where's the other macaroni and cheese?" I'm like, "It's gone," because the pan was, and we had about 20 people. Like the
Mm-hmm.
pan was kind of little, and I was like, "Well, because the macaroni and cheese was really good, people were looking for it." So I think I kind of cleaned it up because I definitely didn't mean it in a malicious way. I was actually meaning it in a joking way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because we don't know how many women are gonna come. So I was like, make sure you got enough because you always, you
Mm-hmm.
never. So I
Mm-hmm.
did do that. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
guilty.
It's okay. But see, that's one of the things that we want to avoid. We don't want the person to feel ashamed. We don't want them to feel to be filled with guilt. And the results, we don't want them to feel worse about themselves. What if they already feel poorly about the conversation that's coming on? We don't want to exacerbate their feelings or poor feelings of themselves, right? So um if they've had, and then what if it's somebody who's at their wits end? What if this is the straw that broke the camel's back? What if this is the person who has taken all that they can take and now they want to withdraw from the conflict or from the situation entirely? Now they just want to be, they just don't want, they don't have anything else to say. I'm
Mm-hmm.
just done. And so where does that really get us? Ultimately, where does that get us in our conversation so that we can actually effectively communicate? right? And sometimes it is true. Let's be honest. Sometimes it is true, but there's still a way so that we can address it. So if it's true, well, again, I don't want to get ahead of myself. So in the moment, we may feel that okay, that what we are saying is true, but what's really happening is there's a deeper truth under there. There's something deeper going on, right? There's a dissatisfaction that hasn't previously been addressed to make us say those things and really believe that those things are true. Right now,
Mm-hmm.
we're becoming forceful. Now we're becoming, I'm forcing my way to tell you what you never do, what you only do, what you always do, and you need to do something differently. Right. So we're becoming enforcers now. And
Yeah.
it's no longer a dialogue, but it becomes a monologue because the other person really kind of again they shut down, they get defensive. Um, so it can bring trouble,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't do well for someone who's already dealing maybe with low self-esteem. What's really being communicated is that the always and never and only, you're really saying something else, and I'm not sure I'm ready to hear this. So like you never treat me like I'm important.
Mm.
You always interrupt me. Okay. You never take me out any place. So you always do things that you want to do. We never get to go to the restaurants that I want to go to. And that may seem like it's true, but if we backtrack and we think about things and we're really honest in what we call, there's this term that we use in our self-awareness class, and it's called, and I got it from John Maxwell. When we're really gut level honest, then we can say that when we say words like always, never, and only, that's not always, only, and never the truth.
Right, right. And a person that has a good memory, like that's not true, because remember when, and they'll call you out on it.
Oh,
Remember when? So you
yeah,
can't say that. So I've
yeah.
been in that situation before. Nah, that's not true. Remember when?
Mhm.
Like, oh yeah, well that was one look, that was one time.
Right. So it puts us on the defensive, right?
Right, right.
We never take out the gun. Why don't you ever do laundry, right? And so there are times, like you said, that we all, in our frustration, we all at sometimes when we're fuming with anger, resort to those absolute terms.
Mhm.
We all do it, right? We all do it. But there are some never, only, and always that are literally accurate, that are literally true, but in almost all cases, these terms, they're exaggerated. We're exaggerating this situation, and it's based on our emotions. So we haven't really grasped or grappled or dealt with the emotions when it does happen. And we don't always say something when it happens. So now it is built up. And again, what it really is doing is it's highlighting a deeper frustration, a deeper disappointment, something that we haven't yet recognized or yet expressed to the other person.
Mhm.
You get what
Mhm.
you understand what I'm saying?
I do. I do. And I think too, when we get caught up in saying the same stuff over and over, and things go unresolved, because think about this. I heard what you said. You said, because this happens a lot, right? So you think about something, and it does happen a lot. And then in the back of your mind, you never said anything. And then the time presented itself where you just like, I just cannot not say anything this time. I have to say
Mm-hmm.
something.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't think I've ever said anything to her about that. And
Mm-hmm.
my husband always asks me about that. And I just kind of like, oh, I don't know. Right. And but then yesterday it just like, yeah, make sure you bring enough.
So he asked you about what in particular?
He always asks me, why don't I bring enough stuff, enough food? And I'm like, I'm always kind of like, I don't know, and I just kind of blow it off. But yesterday, it was like we have a bunch of people coming, and the dish that she was going to make is always very, very small. Like literally, it's just a bowl big enough for me. And
Mm-hmm.
well, maybe not. Maybe that's a little bit of an exaggeration. Maybe me and another person. And I was like, you got to make enough because I know that's like normally not a lot. And so I just, but I think that, like you said, sometimes people They want to say something, they don't say something until they're pushed to the limit. Like, I gotta say something. I cannot not say anything. I just gotta say something. And even
Mhm.
if they're not being malicious about it, it's just the fact that they have been holding it in for so long, so they just can't help it. I gotta say something this time.
Mhm. And I get it. So when we get to the point where we just got to say something this time, right? We're kind of chomping at the bit. We're kind of ready to go. We're kind of at that start line, ready, set, and then we go, right?
Right.
And so we don't have full control of our emotions and what we want to say.
Mm.
We're really kind of ready to attack. And so I
Mm.
find that her response was interesting. I just can't win.
Yeah.
That came from someplace. That came from
Yeah.
a feeling like, no matter what I do, I'm just not doing the right thing. That came from somewhere. And that came from a gut level feeling, or maybe how she thinks about herself, like, I just can't do the right thing. I just can't seem to please people. And so that's another thing. If Well, again, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but magnifying the truth, because that's what we feel like we're doing when we say things like always, never, and only. We actually, our intention and oftentimes our desire, and we're magnifying something that may have some underlying truth, but magnifying it doesn't make it any more or any less true.
Mm.
We can call
Mm-hmm.
attention to something without magnifying it, without making it bigger, without it being incendiary, right? Without it causing flame ups and stir ups. And so, um, beneath this poorly phrased accusation, there's an unmet need. So the unmet need was, there's not enough food. The need was more food, and it wasn't being met.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
really where it came from. Oh, sorry, I think some.
Mm-hmm.
That's really where it came from. Um, and we can say, if someone is saying, or someone feels like, I never get enough attention. You can say things like, I need you to pay more attention to me, and to hear me, and to validate me. This is what I need from you, or this is what I would like you to consider. Right? When a difference, or when my opinion is different from yours, I'd like you to at least hear me out, instead of saying, well, you always interrupt me. I'd like you to at least hear me out before you respond.
I I gotta tell you this. So, and this is a question. So I know a guy, he was dating a girl, and that's what she said, you never show me attention. And I said to him, what is her love language?
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm,
he was like, what is that? And I said, you got to ask her what that is. And her language was words of affirmation.
mm-hmm,
And he was like, I'm not giving her that if I don't feel like that. Like, if I don't feel like she's doing great or she looks great, I'm not doing it. I'm not giving it to her. But that was an issue in their relationship, because she was the type of person who needed words of affirmation. And so she would say, you never do that. And his
mm-hmm.
response was, well, I'm not going to do it if I don't feel it's true. So what do you say to that? Because I have a friend who went through that.
Well, there is always something that you can say that affirms people. Like, if
Mm,
you don't have to say. So when you genuinely care about someone, you desire to get to know them. And
mm-hmm,
if you get if you're in a relationship with someone, it is important to know them. I used to say this all the time. Like, I used to study my granddaughter. I studied my husband. I still do, right? Because I need to know where he is, so that I can know where I need to be. Right? You understand what I'm saying? So we change at different ages. We have biological changes that happen that cause us to behave different way, and life
mm-hmm,
happens, and experience happens. So then our points of view change, our core beliefs change, our core values change. And so it's important to study and care about people. So I don't have to lie or say something that's not true. If you don't look nice to me, I don't need to think that I have to come up with a lie. There's something good about you that I can find, and I can say something every day. Perhaps she's a good cook. He could say, you know what, you're a really good cook. Perhaps she cooks something that he really likes, and he can point that out. You know what? I really like the way that you make macaroni and cheese. Or, I really appreciate that you keep the house clean. I like the fact that you keep the children in line. I love it when I come home from work and you receive. There's something that can be said, and so if this is your friend and you have this conversation, I would encourage you to share with him, broaden your horizons.
Yeah.
What is it that attracted you to her
Yeah.
in the beginning? There's something that you liked about her. There's
Yeah.
something good in her. Look for that, affirm her in those ways, and that will help feed that what she's hungering for.
Yeah, that's my husband's love language, words of affirmation. So I know how to handle him.
There
Like
you
I'll
go.
say good things. I'll say good things all the time. But what was interesting, Dr. Chen, he thought that was everybody's love language, and so I said to him, "That's not mine." And he
Right.
said, "No." He said to me, "I said, you get so excited when people praise you." He's like, "Don't everybody?" I was like, "No, I don't. Like it doesn't matter to me." And he looked at me, so I thought that was everybody. Like that's not everybody. That's everybody's different because that stuff mean. I mean, when people say it is nice, but it don't mean anything to me. Like I'm not looking for it. Him, on the other hand, we figured it out, and we definitely use it when we want him to cook and we want the food to be good. It's like, man, you make that so good. We know how to handle him. So you're right about that.
Yes.
So I know that that's his love language, and that's the one I use, and I say nice things because I just know that that's what he likes, and it's gonna make him feel good. So you're right
Yes.
about that.
And it's what he needs.
Yeah,
It's
what
what
he
fuels
needs.
him. I mean, if your car needs gas, then you're not going to put water in it. It needs gas,
Right,
right? If
right,
it needs oil, you're going to give it what it needs in
right.
order for it to go, in order for it to move, in order for him to be moved. And I mean that
Mhm.
emotionally. If you want him to be moved and to feel good about himself, you're going to fuel him with what he needs. Encouragement is fuel.
Yeah.
Words of affirmation. Now, and oftentimes we do get that mistaken. What is our love language? We're not talking about that, but that is going to be a topic that we're going to bring up, is those five love languages. In fact, I just finished that book about a month and a half ago for the
Yeah.
second time. But it will help us in our communication to know what people need.
Yeah.
Um, but these terms like always and never and only, they're desperate. They sound like they're desperate words. They
Hmm.
expose desperation. Desperation, right? We're desperate. So when we're feeling accused by somebody, what if you're on the receiving end or you're on the giving end? When we feel accused, it's tempting to respond or to refuse to engage. It's tempting to respond in a defensive way. It's tempting to counterattack, or it's tempting to just walk away and abandon the conversation altogether, because it won't solve anything. If we keep going in that direction, it'll only make things worse, right? But if you're feeling defensive, you can ask yourself why you're giving your partner that much authority, or that person in the relationship that much control over you,
Hmm.
right? So,
Hmm.
so when you're hearing that and you're on the receiving end, and it ticks you off and it sends you to a place, it's smart to say, why does that make me so angry? Now,
Hmm.
that's that self-awareness. What's going on with me that makes me so angry? That I'm so upset about that, right? So alleviate the anxiety. What triggered me? Something
Hmm.
triggered me. And so we can examine the unresolved thing. I learned
Hmm.
from a wonderful woman of God, Dr. Carolyn Driver, about unmet needs, unhealed hurt, and unresolved issues.
Hmm.
Oftentimes, that's the root of our unseemly behavior, not only
Hmm.
towards others, but towards ourselves too.
Hmm.
So, what if the person is a people pleaser, right? Then you're really like, okay, so if I'm always this and I'm never doing that, then we need to ask ourselves, why do I feel responsible for someone else's feelings?
Hmm.
And this is
Hmm.
something else I learned for her. People can't make you feel any kind of way.
Right.
So I'm not responsible for how you feel. Maybe what's happened or what you were steeped in or how you grew up or things that happened in your past cause you to feel a way when I behave or say something, but certainly I didn't make you feel that way. That
Right.
came from someplace. That's why I said her response, that came from somewhere back there.
Yeah. Yeah.
She feels like she's
Yeah.
not good enough, can't do enough, beat up all the time, which meaning that's all she's hearing. She's not hearing the compliments. She's not hearing words. Now, I'm not saying that people don't give them to her, but that's not what she's hearing.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. And I'm gonna ask her about it because I know when she said it, it kind of caught me off guard. And so I went back and said, because when you make the macaroni and cheese, it was delicious and people were looking for it. Because when she said that, I was like, oh, like that wasn't the response I was expecting. I was expecting like a giggle like me, and that was the response, like I just can't win. I'm like, really? And
Mhm,
so and then I went back to say, it was the macaroni and cheese was good before. So, people wanted more and it
mhm,
wasn't anymore.
mhm.
So that's
So I'm going to
interesting. I'm
challenge
gonna
you.
ask her though.
So do you
Challenge me.
have interaction with her on a regular basis?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, so this is
On
my
a regular
challenge
basis.
to you. Is it possible that she just responded that way to you because do you have a habit of using the words only, always, and never? You don't have to
Not with
answer
her
me.
so much.
Okay. Do you
No, not
understand
with
why I'm
I
asking
can
the
answer you,
question?
but not with her. But I feel like other people do.
So then what are you going to do differently?
I'm definitely gonna not use those words. Um,
That's a
and I'm gonna
practice. That's
if I do have something to say. See, and I do know her, right? I do know her,
yeah,
and so I know I do talk to her a certain way. But that kind of caught me off guard because in my
yeah.
mind, that was just like me being funny, and we were all laughing, and her response threw me off because there are things I
That's
wouldn't dare say because I do know her
mm-hmm,
and I know
mm-hmm.
how she handles things. So that was one of those things where I never even thought that that was the way she would have responded to that because I didn't
Yeah,
think it was a
yeah,
big deal for real.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So we can defend ourselves without getting or being defensive, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it's diffusing. So if we can move beyond that immediate emotion that comes up. I remember saying something to someone, just had this conversation on yesterday, and I repeated something that someone said to me about me. And I
Mm.
had been pondering this thing for a little over a month now. And I began noticing, so I began saying, I asked the Lord, I said, is this true? Is it a negative thing? What caused it? Why do I do that? And this person said to me, go back to your first emotion when he said those words to you. How do you feel? How did you feel? And I said my initial emotion was, yeah, that's true, but I didn't feel poorly about myself. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we can go too far in the investigation. That's how Satan works, right? That's how Satan works. He will have you replaying something over and over in your mind that could have been harmless, good, right, enlightening, and repeat it over and over with like a groove in a record where now you begin to accuse yourself. Now you begin to feel poorly about yourself. Now your esteem, it's gone from investigating to accusations. Right, so
Mm-hmm.
it's going to now I'm accusing myself, and I'm wondering, am I good enough, or why do I do this and that and the other thing? And then I said, no, I understand why I'm wired that way. See, sometimes we're wired a certain way. Sometimes our environment shapes us that way. When I say our environment, so if you have, let's say, rocks, or if you look at what's that place in Arizona where the level, you know where I'm going.
Sedona.
No, it's not Sedona. The Grand Canyon is really what I'm thinking about, where
Okay.
the rocks are eroding. The environment has caused it to shape the way that it is. right? If you look at rocks and you constantly got water going over water, eventually it's going to erode. And so its environment created its shape. And if the environment you stay in that environment long enough, those grooves are going to take place in our lives, in our psyche, in our emotions, and it's going to be hard to come out of it.
Yes.
It's almost like going around the mountain where you create a rut.
Yes. Yes. Dr. Ten, so when George Floyd died, when my mom passed away, I became this other person.
Mm, mhm,
I became another person. Like my environment shaped me, turned me into a different person. I became an extreme. Now, maybe I was always in the worry ward.
mhm,
Maybe it was just elevated with those two situations, with the pandemic, the passing of my mom, and George Floyd. When I tell you, it was almost paralyzing to the point where my poor child, if I would call her and she took too long to answer me back, I go straight nervous. That was never me. So you're right about that. Your environment will change you, and anybody who knows me, I'm always a strong one. I'm always maneuvering things.
mhm,
After those three things right there, I was somebody totally different,
mhm,
to the point where I was like, I think I need to go see a therapist because
mhm,
this is not me. I've never been like this.
mhm,
But my environment changed. It changed me and it made me this person who worried. And I remember my daughter was on a date and the phone was in her purse and she was at the movies. And I must have called like 12 times.
mhm,
And she was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. The phone was in my purse. So your environment would definitely change you. Even when you don't think it could, it can. And
right.
you have to recognize that. Because for me, I recognize that when people don't call me back, I have to literally talk myself out of being afraid.
Mhm,
If they don't call, if I don't hear from like somebody I haven't talked to all week, I'm literally like this week, I've been like literally like I really
mhm,
need to call her. And I'm sure she's probably just working, but I'm so
mhm,
used to her calling me on a regular
mhm,
basis. And I'm
mhm,
like, I don't want to call and sound all crazy, but it's like, I'm going to call her this evening. I already made up my mind. I'm calling her this evening. And just so what? If I call her and she's fine, that's great. But it's that thing. So your environment definitely does change. It could change who you are. And those three things did that for me. But what about this? What about when you tell yourself, I always never, that you tell you that to yourself, I only always never to yourself.
mhm. So that's something to examine too. But I want to go back to something that you just said, where I don't know so much that it was the environment that changed as it was the catastrophic or the catastrophe that
Mm,
happened. Losing your mother is a change of life event. The event may have changed
right.
the way, right? Not
Yeah.
so much the environment, but the event now
Yeah.
change your inward environment to now, if someone's not answering, you're kind of panicking on the inside. So there's a
Hmm.
little bit of a difference there. But when you had that self negative talk, I always do that and such. Um, I'm constantly in a state of asking the Lord, look, examine my heart. I need you to show me me. And so I always do this and that. Ask yourself why.
Hmm.
Ask yourself why. So why do I always do this? And why do I never? And why do I only? And the first thing to ask yourself is if it's true, right? So because that's
Hmm.
where I'm going. Ask yourself, are you using hyperboles towards yourself? And is it true? Because if we can move beyond when someone is saying that to us, if we can move beyond the immediate feelings of annoying and anger and frustration because it's been said to us, and calm ourselves down, relax a little bit, breathe, take it in. It's wise and intelligent to consider whether those provocative words have an element of truth. So
Hmm.
when I'm accused of something, that's the first thing I do. Lord, is there any truth in that?
Yeah.
They may not have put sugar on it, sugar coated, watered down, chocolate covered, but is there any element of truth? Is there some validity to that? So
Yeah.
even if you're saying that to yourself, do the same thing as if someone else said it to you.
Hmm. Hmm.
Because there is another self that said that to the part that's making me wonder, why am I behaving that way? right? So the one, it's just like the whole spiritual thing. The one you feed, the nature you feed the most is the one that's going to win. If you're
Mm-hmm.
constantly talking down to yourself, that's the person who's going to show up. If you're constantly reading scriptures, praying, talking to God, your spirit man is going to grow more than the carnal side of us. So what
Mm-hmm.
are you feeding the most? What are you giving the most attention to? Right? Anything that's not given the proper attention is going to act out in a certain way. If you don't feed your body the right things, something's going to act out in your body. Either your blood pressure, your sugar levels, or the or swelling or something, right? So when
Mm-hmm.
things are not given the proper attention, giving what they need, there's going to be something that happens. So ask yourself or ask the other person, is there some element of truth to it? Now, we don't always have to agree with everything somebody's saying.
Right.
Now, there may be some truth, and you can say to the person, now, you know what? There's an element in truth to what you're saying, but I don't always do this and that. Because
Right.
remember when you said earlier, nope, because remember the time I didn't do this or that.
Right. Right. Right.
So we don't have to
Right.
always agree with everything and claim what may be likely, but we can. There's a message in there. Where are you coming from? Where you're attacking me like this? Where I feel like I have to defend myself. This way, you can regain control of the communication, and it can go somewhere. It's navigation. It's
Mm-hmm.
navigating. It's taking it in a direction.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Now, what happens if the person don't know how to make that change? What happens if they don't know how to navigate because they have really been beaten down by just people around them, and so they're used to people saying, you know, you never do this, you never do that. You,
Mhm.
what happens if they don't know how to navigate and bounce back?
Oftentimes people don't and people won't. So my answer is always prayer. I believe in prayer, 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 prayer. And
Mm-hmm.
if you don't know how to bounce back, if you don't know how to ask yourself and to be self-aware, then ask the Lord for prayer. If you notice that about someone else and you're discerning that this person has been beat down and they don't know how to change, they don't know how to move, then it's your responsibility as a believer, as a Christian, as a brother or sister in Christ, as a leader, to give that, to pray for that person. Say you're not a believer. You could be a business owner and this can be an employee, and you know that they don't know how
Mm-hmm.
to shift. It's your responsibility as the employer, as the parent, to give them the tools that they need so that they can shift. Right? If I work for an
Mm-hmm.
organization and I do payroll, and now my new responsibility is to include taking the person's 401k, then you've got to give me the tools, the skills, the know-how in order to shift and add that to my responsibilities. It's up to you. If
Mm-hmm.
you're requiring that I do this, if this is what you need, if you know this is what's going to make things go better, then give me what I need to help make me successful.
Mm-hmm.
So
Earlier
I
in the
heard both things.
earlier you said that a lot of times when people do self negative self talk to themselves, that comes from a lack of self esteem. So they
Mhm.
may say, "I never, I always, I only," because that's what they're used to saying about themselves. So what are some of the things they can do to flip that for themselves, and then hopefully that will help them be able to respond when people say that to them? Because I know for me, I do just the opposite. If you say that to me, I'm gonna get defensive. Like,
Mhm.
wait a minute,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So my negative self-talk is only recent, and it's not really negative. It's just like I know that I wasn't that person before all of that stuff happened with my family and all of the pandemic and all that stuff. But there are people, and I'm just thinking of one young lady. She had a very trying life. She has two young boys, and you can see the pain. So I heard what you said about praying for them, but
Mhm.
how do you get them to start to stop talking to themselves negatively?
So if you're praying, and this is what I firmly believe, praying is communication with God. It's not a monologue. It's not like you just and me
Mm,
telling God what I want and what I need, and I need this and I need that. Thank you, Lord. Click. Bye bye. Have a good day, Jesus.
mhm.
I'm done. I just told you what I want, what I need from you. It is
Mhm.
a dialogue. and the Holy Spirit will speak back to you and guide you to help that person, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or you may be the one to plant a seed and to help them. I noticed that you say this about yourself. Have you ever,
Mm-hmm.
like, if a person says, you know what, I'm so dumb, and you always hear a person say something like, you know what, I'm so stupid, and you can say to the person, I don't know if you realize what you're saying to yourself, but you're very wise when it comes to this. You're very intelligent when it comes to that. You can tell them, begin saying something different about yourself. Say
Yeah.
something that's positive. Say something that's true, that that's good about yourself. You can ask them challenging questions. Well, you normally say this about yourself. Do you see anything good in yourself?
Mm.
Right? And or, I know you've had a challenging life. Do you know that means that wasn't necessarily everything evil, because God is sovereign. Perhaps God could trust you with all those things that happen. I
Mm-hmm.
often sometimes have to tell people that I don't know that I could have been trusted with what you've been entrusted with. That
Mm-hmm.
means you're very strong, that you could handle that. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if I can handle that. So I commend you. I commend you on what you've gone through, because you're still standing. You're still, if you got a pulse, right, you do have a purpose.
Yeah.
Right. So encourage to enliven somebody, to help them, to speak life to themselves, and even like David said, he had to encourage himself in the Lord. So we have to help people. A lot of times we don't hear what we're saying to ourselves,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
It's almost like not seeing the forest for the trees. You've been in the forest so long that I don't even see the trees. I just see the forest. So I don't hear myself anymore,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
It's the difference between reading silently and reading out loud. Something happens when you read out loud.
Mm-hmm.
Encourage a person to record themselves.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So there are ways. There are creative ways that you can encourage them to get some help,
Yeah.
some counseling.
Yeah. I did that part. So and they are seeking help. So I did do that part.
Hmm.
It's just I think when you're in a position where people look to you for all the answers and you don't have them, you got to give them to somebody else that can handle. Or you can't. You may have answers, but it just not be your place to share because sometimes, yeah, it's draining for me when it's not the thing that I'm the strongest in. So yeah, I did that. So I did do that part. So that's a good thing.
I love that. And then we can, it helps us to see past, we have to at least try to see past the questionable um, facts to help understand the feeling that's what's being communicated. That's
Hmm.
another thing when we hear those accusatory, inflammatory words. Try to see past the questionable facts and understand there's an emotion behind. So when a person is doing the self-negative talk, there is some emotion, like you said, that low self-esteem, what they feel about themselves. But I'm gonna tell you something the Holy Spirit told me about low self-esteem. I heard God say low self-esteem is another form of pride.
Really?
And I said, God, that's what I said, like, really? So if you think so little of yourself, who are you to think so little of yourself? You didn't make yourself. You didn't
Mm.
create yourself. So now you made yourself your own God to think that you're less than.
Mm.
Your focus is on you.
Mm.
I
Mhm.
you know, I don't think this about me, and I don't. So your own thoughts about yourself have become lofty,
Mm. Even though they're not good.
even though they're not good.
Mm. That's huge. That's
That's why
huge.
I love talking to God.
Well,
And
there
I
you
love
go.
to talk to He makes me think.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
makes me
yeah,
think.
yeah.
So I want to say this too, that when someone uses blanket statements, that are clearly right exaggerated, like that's just exaggerated. It's mainly to get their point across. That's really what people are trying to do. They just
Mm-hmm.
want to get their point across so strongly that you can't possibly miss it. That's really what they want to do. You always, I'm trying to get my point across so that you don't miss what I'm saying to you, right? Yes, it seems terribly like distorted and all of that, and it seems unfair. But if someone is representing an unvarnished truth, right? You can reduce your own defending yourself and calm down and say, what is the real feeling behind that? What's the
Mm-hmm.
real feeling behind that? There's some validity to what they're saying, and their feelings are valid. What can I help them do so that I'm not always frustrating them to this point? That's another thing. What is it? Is there something I really need to change? I don't
Mm-hmm.
want to be the source of someone's exasperation. I personally don't want to be the source of someone's frustration. I don't
Mm-hmm.
want to be the source of that. I want to be their encourager.
Mm-hmm.
I want to help influence and impact their lives in a way that allows them to be more, to jump higher, to run faster, right? To have a little more pep in their step and feel better about who they are. Because at the end of the day, we all need to understand that we are created for a purpose, and it's good purposes.
Mm-hmm. That's right. We are all created for a purpose and it's good.
Yes.
Some people don't think that though.
Yes.
They don't think that they're created for good. They don't know why they're here actually.
I, I get it. End of the year, we're teaching that class. Know your purpose so you can write. We do it I've started doing it every year so you can write your mission statement. Know
Mm.
why you're alive.
Yeah.
Know
Yeah.
there's so much joy in it.
Yeah. It is. It is a lot of joy. But I tell you, I'm around a whole bunch of people all the time. And I give you a prime example. There's a young lady, I was helping her write a book.
Mhm.
And she was struggling. And I kept saying, well, do you have the chapters? Because I gave her a blueprint. Do this,
Ah,
right? And
mhm.
she had the blueprint. And it was a very simple blueprint. And after a month and a half, she only had one chapter. And I said to her, why are you writing the book? Which I should have asked her that in the beginning.
Mm,
But she convinced me of the reason. But when I went back like a month and a half later, because the book was supposed to be done, I said, why are you writing this book? And she didn't know. She was like, I don't know. She didn't know. And I said that that's why you're struggling because you don't know why you're writing this book. This book has to be just as important to you as your family, as going to the gym to work out. Because she was like, I got to work out. Well, when you going to write the book? She said she didn't know why she was writing it. So some people just don't know. They don't know that they don't know until someone asks them. And I wish I had asked her early on because we probably could have spent the next month and a half doing something else. But she was
yes.
like, I want to write the book. I want to dedicate it to my mom, blah, blah, blah. And when I asked her, like, why are you doing it a month and a half later, she had no idea.
Because the purpose of a thing dictates its design, first of all.
Mm,
The purpose of a thing
mm-hmm.
dictates its design. So if I go to an architect and I say I need to hire an architect, they're going to say, "What is it that you're trying to build?" Well, I want to build a school, right? And so that's going to dictate its design. They're going to have classrooms.
Yeah,
They're going to have pull down screens. Like they're not going to build it like they would build a hospital. They're not going to build it like they
right.
would build a bunker for a military. So the purpose dictates the design. So not knowing the
Yeah.
purpose is why she couldn't come up with a design no matter how much you helped her.
Yep. And I realized that later, but you're right. I like that. That should be another book. You're gonna write that
Oh,
book.
stop. See, that's probably why
That's
she wrote a book because someone said it to her.
that's right. Her mother. Her mother said it.
Okay, you've done everything else. You should write a book.
Right, exactly. That's exactly because she said her mother. Her mother was a big influence on her writing that book. It wasn't that she really wanted to write it, but when she came to me, she's like, "I want to write the book," and she talked about her mom a lot. And I was like, "Okay." And she struggled a lot, right up until I was like, "Why are you writing this book?" And she was like, "I don't know."
Yeah,
And I was like, "Okay, that's the problem right there in a
yeah,
nutshell." Well, we are at. We actually went over, but that's okay.
yeah.
We actually went over. What do you want people to know before we say la vie?
I want you to know that if you're hearing words or saying words like only, always, and never, let's examine ourselves. so that we're not causing people to be on the defensive. Go inward before we create those words and say those words and ask, what's the real deal? What am I really trying to convey? What am I really trying to get across? And what is the root of that? What's the root of it? And then if someone's saying it to you, rather than get defensive, don't take the bait.
Yeah.
Don't take the bait. Ask yourself, is there any validity in this? Is there any truth? And then you go back and say, you know what? Sometimes I do that. I apologize. I need to do better, and address the issue at hand.
Yeah. It was a movie, Dr. Chen. I know we're going to go, but I just got to say that it was a movie, and I cannot think of I think it was Denzel Washington. When you said, ask yourself, is there any truth to that, right? Mm-hmm. And in that movie, remember the movie? I think it was Denzel. So you can't handle the truth. Somebody said it. Do you remember that?
Yeah, and it was a military, and it wasn't Denzel. It was I think it was he played the one in Batman. Lord, you can't handle the truth. He played an attorney in a military trial.
Yeah, like you can't.
Jack Nicholson.
Yes. So right, exactly. So people can say that, but can they really handle the truth when they ask that question? Is there any truth to that? Can you really handle the truth?
We have a quote, and I can't remember who said it. They said, "You shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you mad." Right?
I never heard that one, but I like it. I like it. You shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you mad. I'm gonna say that tomorrow.
Yeah. Know the truth and let it make you change. Just let it make you change.
Well, listen, thank you as always. Very enlightening, giving people a lot to think about. I got a potluck with these ladies tonight, and I'm definitely going to bring that up. So I'm going to be interested to just see what the conversation is going to be like. So it's a bunch of us, and I'm just going to be interested to see what the conversation is going to be, because I'm going to bring it up. So I didn't mean any harm, and I talked about this, and I want to know your real feelings about why you said what you said. So I'll let you know when we talk again about what she said. Yes. Listen, hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Keeping It Real with Dr. Chen. As always, she's bringing the heat, she's bringing the fire, she's bringing wisdom. If you like this episode, be sure to subscribe to her show. Go to her website, lindachenministries.com, to subscribe to the show, to check out all of the amazing things she has going on. And listen, follow her on her social media, connect with her. I get wiser every time we do an episode. I know I'm sitting on the side over here, and she's in the center, but I walk away wiser every single time. Now I got to go tonight and figure out, did I say something that really hurt your feelings? That's because I was giving some insight. Now I got to go ask the question. So thank you again. And as always, thank you for just doing what you do. Listen, we'll be back in 2 weeks, same place, same time. Make sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Set your notifications so you get the notifications on your phone and you never miss an episode. Until next time, everybody, stay safe out there and have a great day. Bye, everybody. Bye, Dr. Chen.
Keep it real.